Welcome to a very special episode of the YOD pod, where we have four very impressive individuals, impressive for a multitude of reasons, but collectively they're impressive because they have just returned from a special adventure out in Morocco where they ascended Mt Toubkal. And I say that cautiously because there is some disagreement or uncertainty about the pronunciation, even from those four of you sat on this podcast who have been there and done it and seen it from all angles. Firstly, guys, well, welcome back. The first question I wanted to know is how's the physical state after taking on a pretty serious adventure?
I feel like I'm quite qualified to start this one because, as you can probably tell, I've got the worst cold. I don't know anyone else really unwell. I was flat for 2 days, just exhausted. I think we were all pretty wiped on the day after we came back down, weren't we? After that first proper night's sleep, and we were making our journey home. But then the next day for me, I was even worse. And now I'm just full of a cold. And I don't know if it's a combination of being really run down and being really exposed to the weather up there. But yeah, apart from that, I've got a black toe.
Me too.
What from? As in not frostbitten toe?
No,
Bruise toe.
in my big toenail.
Yeah, same.
It's all coming off.
I would say show us, but I don't know if we want to see that on screen. Is this a place for feet? Maybe not.
It's very niche.
It's niche. Some people are into it, but I'm not surprised you're a little bit run down, because it was a hell of an achievement, hell of an adventure. The highest peak in North Africa, 31 kilometers total, I believe, and most of that, well, all of that going uphill, reaching a total high altitude, is it 4,167 meters?
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
Well, if my research is wrong, Dan's research is also wrong. I'll drag you under the bus with me, Dan. But I'll go back to the beginning. We sort of started at the end in terms of how you're feeling now. Great to see you all back in the UK, back to the day jobs, doing what you do. Darren, you were kind of behind this crazy call, and it was kind of late in the day, and you obviously just wake up one day and decide to rope some people in to climb a mountain, or what?
I think that's how Elle feels about it.
Hey, and Dan, don't just put me up.
Yeah, okay. Maybe he was softer to me about it. No, I think Dan and I had been speaking for a while about trying to do the hike in July and use that as a platform to do something bigger and better and bolder. And we had a few conversations back and forth. We looked at Killy, but it was a bit too much time, a bit too far. And somehow Mt Toubkal popped up in the conversation, and there was a bit of a winter element to it with a bit of snow, which I at the time thought would be great. Probably in retrospect, was a bit punchier than I was expecting. But yeah, it was all to try and push the boundaries of what YOD wants to do and where it wants to be. And luckily we pulled it off in a short amount of time. Probably not perfect in terms of planning and logistics and getting everything right, but we learned from it, and I think we're all smiling post it. So it's both good and bad, and lots of lessons on the way.
Well, we'll come on to some of the lessons and the challenges. I'm eager to hear, as will everybody else be. But it is a good sign that you are willing to at least sit in the same virtual room as each other. Although when I said there was a moment where you sort of all looked like you were looking at each other, and like I'm wondering what the dynamics are now. I'm coming into this like an outsider. You guys have been through this together. But Ben, how was it easy to rope you in for this challenge? You've obviously got a long history with OK Doc. You've done a couple of years now doing the hike in July. This is kind of your bread and butter stuff anyway. You must have been an easy sell to you, wasn't it?
It's funny because this is the highest I've ever been, Tom, by quite some way, and there's clearly a good reason for that, because I got altitude sickness as it went up. But
talk us through that without, maybe spare us a few of the details, but what was that experience like?
Well, there's a very good video clip of me quite clearly becoming a bit hypoxic halfway up, because Ellie's going, this is miserable, this is type 2 fun, I'm hating this, and I'm completely wired going, this is great, I'm loving this. And in retrospect, that was probably the early signs of hypoxia. And then I got a few hundred meters higher up the mountain and really started to feel very dizzy. And had to keep resting on my poles. I was not in a good place on some of those ridges. Not because I have any fear of heights. It was just purely my head was spinning, and I felt like I could have just toppled over at any point. And fortunately, everyone slowed down enough for me to keep up, and we got to the top. But yeah,
there was a bit of sympathy from the rest of the group, was there? They weren't just annoyed that you'd been peppy for the last half an hour.
I don't know. I think there was a combination of all sorts of things going on at that point. There were crampons breaking, there were poles breaking, there were people.
Wind.
Yeah, there was quite a lot of wind, and there were a lot of cold hands and cold faces, I think, at that point. So yeah.
Oh, look, seeing Ben leaning on his poles at 4,000 meters, kind of just like head down, wobbling. Was not the nicest thing to be seeing for a Ben. What are you, 6'4" or something? It was a pretty terrifying sight.
You weren't queuing up. No one was volunteering to carry you back down.
No, there was none of that.
We sat him on a rock. We gave him a gel, and in about 2 minutes, he was back up and sprightly again.
Wow. I don't know what was in that gel, Darren, but
it was a great gel.
If
you want some advertising sponsor, it was Morton's gels, and it rocked.
Darren's on commission. Nice. Get the plugs in. Sponsor this podcast episode if they really want. But was it hard? Was it on balance? Obviously, none of you really knew because none of you had done it before. So you didn't really know what you were getting into. Done various levels of challenge like this before. But was it on balance harder than you thought it was going to be? Was it exactly as you expected? Dan, what were you signing up for? Because if I'm honest, I had a little giggle to myself when I knew you were doing this, and I knew you were prepping for it. And all I could think about was when we took on the Three Peaks a couple of years ago, and within an hour of the first ascent, your quads had gone into cramp. And I thought, I wonder if he's thinking about that moment as he prepares to go up into -20 temperatures and 30-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah, that was something I think about daily almost. I brought it up like 3 or 4 times before we set off for Marrakesh. Yeah, I was like slightly worried. I was definitely.
I love that you had to exercise those demons with the group and like have that little bit of a session before you went.
Yeah, I was like,
air it.
I even wrote it on my Just Giving page. I've come from the person that cramped halfway up Ben Nevis, not even halfway, with like half an hour. Embarrassing early too. Yeah, no, yeah, it definitely played on my mind. I think the thing for me, although I had read the weather report, the thing for me was that it was -20 degrees and like the wind was like 30 miles per hour or something like that, which made it really kind of an isolating experience in a way, because when it's that windy and that cold and when you're on a single track, all you're thinking about is putting like one foot in front of the other. And when you're taking your breaks, you just want to get out the wind and the cold. But yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about that. But that was all part of Darren's vision for this trip. I remember saying, well, why don't we do it in July? And he was like, yeah, but there's going to be no snow, Dan. We're not going to be able to use crampons. We're not going to be able to use ice axes. And when we were hiking up at like 3 a.m. in the morning, I'm like, this is not my vision for You Okay, Doc. This is definitely Darren's. This is
the reins, Dan. I'm sorry.
This is Darren's. This is Darren's vision. But yeah, no, it was
all just Darren's chance to use crampons and an ice axe for the first time. That was purely the motivation.
Yeah.
With naivety, I had a naivety that it would be fun, and it was maybe a bit of fun, but mostly the opposite.
No, it was definitely type 2 fun, definitely.
But Darren also said, like, I think when we were coming down, that it was like as hard or similar to an Ironman. I don't know if you still feel like that, Darren, because I can't.
No, yeah, I do. To be honest, it was one of those. I was busy when I was researching post the summit, because it felt really intense. Like I just didn't expect it. It's 2.5. The summit day was 2.5 kilometers up and roughly 1,000 meters elevation, and I had to go and research like what it compares to on other summits. And it's one of the hardest summits you get in terms of like the ratio of vertical to kilometer, distance. It's like 400 meters per kilometer. And I think like I checked against like Mount Elbrus, Killy, Everest, like all of them. And it's more intense than all of them. And I think, you add in all the factors that everyone's just been describing between the winds, the snow and the cold. It made for a seriously traumatizing and hard-working effort, and running on very little sleep as well, right? It's like I don't think any of us slept well. We were all pretty fatigued. And it did, just going back to the comment, Dan, the Ironman was obviously very brutal and took a lot of effort. And it had that same mentality of like, just focus on here, the now, the present, just one foot in front of each other. Like everyone's going through the same thing. We're all in it together, and just keep your mind very clear and very present and very focused, and you'll get there. But you had to dig deep. I think we all had to dig pretty deep to get through that.
I want to dig into that a bit more, talking of digging deep, Darren, like that experience, because what's coming out in abundance is like the scale of the challenge. It was like, and I'm kind of weirdly in my mind, I'm like, and I always had FOMO watching you guys do it. And I was like, I really wish I was doing that as well. And the harder it sounds, the more I wish I was doing it in a weird way. But I think part of that is because I know I'm fortunate to have not the same experience, but obviously the knowledge that having a shared challenge with like-minded people is an incredibly powerful experience. But you said, Dan, you mentioned like when the wind's blowing, and there is something isolating about high winds, isn't there, in the cold, and there is that tendency to kind of withdraw into yourself. I imagine you all had that experience at some point where you felt like you kind of isolated and alone in it. I don't know. Like, Ellie, did you still manage to stay like connected to the group? Like, did you have moments where you're like, you felt like it was all on you, or you felt like you were alone and you had to actively reach out? Or was there any moment where, someone gave you a little pat on the back, or a little, I don't know, like little whack with a pole, ice axe or something, or a pole? Yeah.
Keep moving. Stop slowing down. I think, so it's almost like past the point where Ben was recording this video going, this is definitely type 1 fun. And I was looking at him thinking, like, you are bonkers. This is not type 1 fun. My feet are frozen. My hands are frozen. Like, my camelback's frozen. Like, I'm so cold, I don't even want to get more layers out of my bag because I physically would like freeze doing that. And then we started to get much higher. And I then started, like, I don't know if any of you guys heard me, but I started doing like little songs. I was like singing along, like doing like rap. And I wonder if that's the altitude as well, just like making me go a bit loopy. But then when we got...
What was the song, Ellie? Can you sing it for us?
No, it was almost like High School Musical, like we're all in this together. like just
amazing.
We've got there. It's like, keep going, guys. Like, come on, you can do it. But it was like every like 20 seconds, it was just like taking a few more steps, because you're constantly just going up and up and up. And then I got to a point where, because of the wind, and I think I suddenly started looking around at how high we were, and I did start to then, like, I think I started to panic. And you are suddenly on top of the world, and you realize like how vulnerable you are, and you've put yourself, and yes, you are surrounded by a group of people, but there aren't many of us there. There's like, there was the 10 of us from our whole group collectively, like plus our Sherpas, and there are some other people in dribs and drabs coming up. But you suddenly realize, with these sheer drops either side of you, this wind that's literally knocking you off your feet, like the multiple times I was blown like off my course of path, and you're like having to put your hand down to catch yourself. And then I'm starting to panic with my breathing, and you're like, crikey, I'm in a like really silly environment. Like, why did I sign up to this? Like, what is going on? Like, how am I here? Like, if something goes wrong now, like you kind of just want to get down. You're like, get me off this mountain, but you can't. And I then just started panicking, and really, really started panicking. And I think I probably had a proper like anxiety attack, because I just really, really struggled with my breathing. But we had such amazing Sherpas with us, who I think one of them noticed me really struggling and let the others carry on. And I just then sat back for a bit whilst I tried to get my breath. And then obviously we get to the top, and everyone is just, we all just come together. Like, yes, you are on your own, but you're also not. And I think that just kind of like is the summary of the trip. I think, Dan, you mentioned it the other day. It was like kind of disconnecting to connect, both like through social media, but also both through like civilization and like going into the extremities, and as a group doing that, it's just like the most amazing experience, isn't it?
There was so many unknowns, I suppose, about it. Like not just the weather and being on the mountain, but even before that, right? Like you're traveling to foreign country, first night you're there, you talk me through, tell me the story of like where you stayed, food you're eating. I guess that's sort of largely out of your control to some extent. Was there any interesting bits of cuisine you indulged in on the journey? Was night one like, Darren, when you rocked up, was that the realization that you'd taken on something major, or was night one pretty comfortable when you turned up in Marrakesh? And
other than I'm going to let Ben talk to it, but other than the drive on the way there, when
oh my god,
we had an accident before and just after leaving the airport. But yeah, Ben, I'll let you talk through that one.
Yeah, so it was all really well organized. There were lots of, there was never a problem with the logistics, but we get into our local taxis, and the four of us got into our little yellow van with our bags jammed in the back. I think Dan were you in the very back seat at that point, Dan?
Yeah, I was part of the boot space for sure.
quite right.
And I was sat up front with the driver, and we were on the main freeway coming out of Marrakesh heading up to Imel, and yeah, suddenly on the other side of the road someone just swung a Yui right in front of the taxi. I mean, we were going, I don't know, 60, 70k, and I verbally uttered a very pronounced because I thought we were going to die. This car just literally swung straight across the and even the taxi driver was a bit shaken, and that's happened to him all the time. Yeah,
so, your biggest dice with death was not actually up a mountain. It was on the taxi ride from the airport. Yeah,
before we even got there.
But then also there was the climb to the apartment, so we all then eventually get to the bottom, get to Imlil where we were staying, and we get our bags out the back, and then we start walking up to where they say our accommodation is. And how was that walk, Dan?
Oh, honestly, it was like, I was like, my quads are definitely going to cramp. I was like dying. I was like short of breath, was going up that like 60-meter vertical climb up to the Riyadh or wherever we stayed. It was.
So did your head go then, Dan, when you were like, oh crikey, we're not even really at altitude yet? I mean, you are a bit, aren't you? But
immediately to a dark place.
Yeah, what did you think? Did you think about like actually just pulling the plug there and then?
Yes, see you guys. I haven't been sponsored enough to do this.
We're gonna stay here.
Yeah, no, I was just
it's like not to be taken. I'm sort of like poking fun a little bit, Dan, but like not to be taken for granted, because at that point there's that fear of like, oh crikey, this is actually gonna be really hard because just climbed up a flight of stairs and it's already difficult. I've got to go up a mountain, and you shouldn't take for granted that you did actually, you do stick it out and take it on. I just think it's interesting to pull out like what is the motivation, like what is in there in your mind at that point that actually means that you do still go to the start line.
What, me after the cramping?
Or just in the realization that this was going to be a really tough challenge you're about to take on the next day?
Yeah, I think at the time there was like kind of like a lot of unknowns. So yeah, Darren had done the majority of the organizing of this trip.
That was the problem in the first place.
Yeah, so a lot of it was still, I couldn't repeat a lot of the stuff that we were going to do off the top of my head, although, I'd done some of the social media for YOD for it. But I did, so it was a lot of the unknowns. The group that we were in seemed reasonable, were really fit. We obviously, we've Ellie's done a Ironman, so it's Darren. We had 2 ultramarathon runners from like the Netherlands, or one from Poland, I think, and the other one from Denmark, that were very lean, like machines. Like Darren was going, "Oh my god, Dan, these guys are like machines." I'm like, "This is literally the last thing I need to hear." So like everyone, it was just like a lot of the unknowns. But I thought it would potentially be a bit better than the 2023 peaks for me, but yeah, you never know. I guess there's always a concern for me around like the food and like getting a bad stomach. I seem to be prone to them. And yeah, sleeping is never going to be like, it was pretty cold at night. In the I don't think there was probably any central heating or anything like that. It was just kind of really thick, warm blankets. And then setting off. But yeah, I just kind of put my head, like, I've done a lot of tough stuff before in the past, and I think I just kind of lean on that, really.
Yeah, that's interesting. You kind of go back to knowing there's something in you that knows you've got the strength to do it. Talk us through that first day then. So you set off in what must have felt like the middle of the night, did you?
No, so we had a regular breakfast time. I think we were. Was it
nice.
9
It
weeks
was
ago?
actually really civilized, wasn't it? It was really nice.
What was for breakfast then? What did this army march on?
The best.
Basically boiled eggs and bread.
Guys, mostly on boiled eggs, and there was a lot of bread.
A lot of bread. Delicious.
And you and our Polish friend were fighting over the peanut butter.
We were.
I don't think anyone else did. Anyone else see any peanut butter?
No, I didn't.
No, it was just you and Marek, I think.
Tea and peanut butter was good.
Oh, and loads of mint tea, all the sugar.
Mint tea and sugar.
And it was quite a civilized morning, actually, that first morning.
Yeah, so Tom, the first morning was kind of the trek to the base camp. So that was 12 kilometers. I think we ascended 1,500 meters. Is that right? Over 12 kilometers. So it was fair. I think it took about 5 hours. Like, we stopped for lunch.
Beautiful day.
Yeah, it was a really nice day. But I mean, obviously, it was continuously uphill, and it was fine. I thought, like, for me, it was reasonably okay. Apart from running slightly hot, I always felt like I was hotter than most in the group, but it was fine.
A little bit of calm before the storm, though, because you knew that the next day was going to be tough. God, Darren, so were you like enjoying the night, like enjoying the nice day, having some good chats, but knowing that?
I think, you mentioned the unknown, Tom. I think the beauty of these things is you don't know what you're going to get, right? And that's part of the journey and the excitement, right? Is like, we get to this little riad at 11 o'clock at night. We've just nearly had an accident. Then you meet a bigger group of people, and everyone's really connecting and engaging and eating new food, as you mentioned. You get a good night's sleep, and then actually that day was lovely. We just walked up, and I don't think anyone particularly found it hard. It was beautiful. It was mixed terrain. Engaging with the locals, getting to know our Sherpas, everyone getting to know each other, and everyone, again, going back to, and I think that's the key message for me, was everyone was connecting, right? Like, all these people who are now engaging in conversation, talking about real things in life, and no one really, other than taking pictures, no one like really on their phones, and just being present. And I think that was actually the nicest part of that day. Yeah, and then we got to the refuge relatively late in the afternoon. A bit of snow sprayed along the last kilometer or so, which I think I got excited because I didn't know how hard it was going to be, but I got excited. And the refuge was a little bit roguey, to be fair. There was, I don't know how many people were in that thing, to be honest, guys.
Felt like there was like 100.
Yeah, it was a.
Describe it to me. Oh,
I think you're probably better than me at describing
I've
that.
actually been looking this up because I was like, I have to find some photos to show my family and my friends. Like, they just won't understand. I think it was built in like the early 19, just like, it's old. I think it was built in like the 1920s. There's, again, like, the only central heating was these massive fires. So that was the thing. It was warm, wasn't it? It was actually really warm. But like, the sleeping arrangements was this room that was probably like, well, it's probably, I don't even know how to describe how big it was, but it wasn't that big. But it was just filled with these bunk beds, and there was like hardly any walking space. It was just bunk beds, like either side of the room, which slept like 32 people.
They're like fully connected.
Yeah, fully connected bunk beds. So it's like the biggest bunk beds you've ever seen in your life that sleep like 8 people on the bottom, 8 people on the top. 8 people on
both sides of the room. Yeah.
With like less than a meter gap, less than like a meter corridor between both bunk beds, the one on the right and the one on the left. And we all walked into this room, being the first group that had arrived. And I think we were all like, oh, there's 10 of us, that's amazing. And the Sherpas were like, yeah, 8 of you will sleep on the bottom. And I was with one other girl, Siobhan, and we were like, oh, where will we sleep? They were like, oh, and the other guys were like, oh, it's fine, there's loads of space on top. And like, I think Darren was like, oh, I'll sleep up here, guys, it's okay. And then suddenly, like, more people started coming into the room. And other Sherpas were saying to other people, like, oh, you guys are sleeping on this side. And suddenly, like, all the bunk beds were full. And it suddenly, I think, dawned on us all, like, oh no, this is going to be a room full of like over 30 people, all trying to get to sleep, all trying to wake up at like 4 a.m. to go climb up to the top of the summit. And I think suddenly we all realized that we were all going to be in for quite a challenging night's sleep.
Not the fun of
Who was snoring then?
Who was the fun of sleeping next to strangers and panicking if you are snoring.
Yeah.
It was kind of really kind of, it was kind of what I would say, it was quite uncomfortable, wasn't it? It's like
Definitely.
cold showers.
They promised us warm showers, hadn't they? As we were coming, do you remember when we were coming up towards the end of the climb on that first day? The Sherpas were like, oh yeah, there's warm showers. And we'd all been like, oh gosh, like showers, that's amazing. Like we didn't think there would be showers. Yeah. But I guess the best way to describe the facilities would be there was like 4 toilets, 2 normal toilets, 2 that were just holes. You always had to have your own loo roll. There's never any communal loo roll. And then these 2 showers were like showers, like they were, the best way to describe it is just imagine exposed blue water pipe and taps, but coming out the ceiling.
Their only real resemblance to a shower was the fact that water would come out, but if you wanted hot water, which you could get, you had to turn it all the way to hot, and then it trickled. So it would literally just trickle out. So to get any pressure, you had to turn it back round towards the cold side. Of course, then the hot water disappeared into the ice cold water, and it was absolutely Baltic.
It was the kind of place where you took a shower, and when you came out the shower and got dressed again, you felt like you were dirty again.
Yeah, you didn't want to let your clothes touch the floor, like you were getting changed, like holding your clothes to not put them down anywhere.
That is why I did not shower, guys.
Did you not?
No, we noticed, Darren.
It's fine.
It's fine. I waited. Stay upwind of Darren on the climb.
That was it was an experience in itself.
Yeah, a good lesson in coexisting, I suppose, with like other people. Not just obviously you as a group, but a wider group of people having to share beds and share a room and share showers in inverted commas. I suppose there's a bit of a life lesson in that for everyone as well, and like it is possible even in the most uncomfortable of circumstances. Which is interesting. So then you had a pretty average night, I imagine, not probably feeling super fresh, and then you set off up for the ascent up towards the summit.
I feel like we have to mention the stars before we start going up.
Oh yeah, tell me about the stars.
And come on.
Well, Darren, you got a great video. So the start, so it was like a moonless night, or like the moon wasn't going to rise till like 1 a.m. in the morning. So like the stars were incredible. So you could see like the Milky Way, and you did talk about the stars, right? I haven't.
Yeah. I've never seen stars like it. I've never seen a sky like it.
Yeah, it was it was like incredible. It was incredible. So Darren and I were out. I mean, it felt like we were out till like 1 o'clock in the morning, but it was only till like 9 o'clock at night taking pics. Yeah, but it was
trying to stay warm.
It was like -5 outside, and you're just like, we just can't go back inside. The stars were too beautiful, and Dan was taking shots with his awesome camera. I was trying to record it with my cool hyperlapse function on my phone. And yeah, I don't know, like somehow it was so good to just be standing there in that crisp air, looking at the stars. Again, like one of those the nice moments of the trip. I mean, I was trying to run in and get warm hands, and Dan was like, just stay. And I was like, no, I'm freezing. And he's just stay. And then I was like, okay, but we need to go to sleep. I was like, just stay.
2 more minutes. Yeah. But, like the stars were incredible. And like, again, like all like the food that was kind of, that we had throughout kind of the trip, apart from maybe at the refuge, that we had a lot of tagine local dishes. So, which obviously kind of, that's their main kind of staple, I guess, in Marrakesh and Morocco. And it was always reasonably nice, wasn't it? The food, like you always felt like you could.
Yeah, needed a bit of salt at the top of the mountain, but worse issues, right?
Yeah.
Did you take your own snacks with you?
Yes, I did.
What were your snacks of choice, Ellie?
Well, I was kind of given a load of real meal replacement bars, which are these like complete nutritional meal replacement bars that have like 600 calories in them each. So I was just like slowly chomping away on those.
This is another plug, by the way, like Darren. Is this like
No,
this is a rival? We're on commission as well, aren't you?
Link. But they are great. They were really tasty. I think I clearly tried them, but yeah. So I just had those as my snacks, which I'm glad I took, because there were some days where like some of the soups were a bit questionable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting hearing about it, because there are like so many things that can hijack you, right? Like, even though in and of themselves, you know, oh, the showers aren't great. Okay, I can get on with that. Oh, that food's like, that's soup's a bit dodge. Okay, fine. But like, cumulatively, sometimes these things can like break you down a little bit psychologically, can't they? And they can all start to build up. Was there a sense of that, or was it just it is what it is? Like, obviously you guys are all going in with a mindset of well, an awareness of your own like mental state, I suppose, and kind of some of these traps that you might be faced with in terms of the psychology of the challenge. So you would have been well equipped to deal with it. But did you kind of experience any of that kind of building up of negative thought process, or see that in anyone else that you were sharing the refuge with, or met along the hike? Did it all feel pretty positive? I don't know. It's interesting.
I could see like light at the end of the tunnel. Like, I knew this was going to be hard. I knew this was going to be a proper out of comfort zone activity, which is partly why I agreed to come along and like sign up to do it, because like I love putting myself in those environments that I wouldn't otherwise experience, and those like both mental and physical challenges. And so I kind of.
Why do you like that, Ellie? What does that give you in your experience?
You need it to grow. You need it to learn about yourself. You need it to learn about the world, and you need it to learn from others. And you know that, as Darren said, like when we were walking, even on that first day, the conversations we were having, and like, you know, being in nature and just talking to like-minded individuals were just so inspiring. But then there was that element, but also then the kind of the physical challenge of what we then endured, and when we come to it, like getting up to the top, of now knowing that I can do those hard things, and I can then overcome other hard things when they get sent my way. Yeah, there is, I don't know, there's so much, like there is, I guess I just love type 2 fun in a sense. It's just that accomplishment at the end. But no, I think because there was light at the end of the tunnel, and we knew it was for a short period. And I think it was what was really nice as well is we knew we were going back to the place that we first stayed at. So I had an expectation. I knew like there was not another unknown, if that makes sense, as to where we're next staying. Like, so I knew what we were coming back to, and I knew that was nicer than where we'd been in the refuge. And I obviously knew that we were then going to be, you know, the trip wasn't long. It's not like we were at base camp for like 30 days having to, I mean, like Everest. I think then it would be a very different story, very different.
I think with trekking, and like I guess I don't really like, the only time I hike is in July. So that's the whole YOD thing, and now in March. But I think definitely with hiking, and I think Darren will probably say more about this as well, it's inevitable that everyone in the group, really regardless of your fitness, will go through like a wobble or some kind of, they have to overcome something somewhere along the way, along that journey, along that hike. Whether, you know, Ben obviously has explained about his altitude sickness. I had freezing cold hands. I spun into my head. I was like, well, my fingers are going to drop off. I didn't have the right gloves, essentially. And I think like that it's inevitable that will happen. And I think it's about how you overcome that, especially on those tracks. And I think that's probably in quite a poetic way, like why people climb up mountains, right? Because they overcome quite a lot of stuff on that journey, just as like they would kind of in their life or their medical career or whatever is going on personally for them. At least that's what really dawned on me on this trip. That's you know, kind of really highlighted the importance of actually hiking and doing these trips, and probably why people do climb up mountains in that sense.
Yeah, I love that. Dan, I can see how that realization would have come in this kind of amazing adventure. Ben, I'm going to throw it over to you, because that same sort of question I was saying to Ellie about, like, what's the impulse to nudge yourself outside your comfort zone? Because you've done you've done that a lot in your life in various forms, and you're continuing to do it. So why?
I've not gone to this altitude before, but I've been out in the field for protracted periods of time. I've lived in pretty grotty places. I've been to pretty unpleasant parts of the world, and I've seen some fairly horrendous things. But this, for me, I think was, it was about testing myself in a way that I was confident I could do it, but I wanted to reassure myself that the marching sounds of time had not made me so frail and decrepit that I couldn't actually achieve what I thought I could in my head. So I was basically trying to make sure that the mind and the body matched up. It's been a battle back to fitness for me. I had a pretty ropey 18 months with a slip disc in my neck and not being able to do much. So this I needed a focal point. I needed a challenge, and this was going to push me. The being grimy and dirty and eating rubbish food and being cold and wet, that's fairly standard for anybody in a sort of military environment. So that, I knew I could cope with that. I've done it before. And there's a special place I go to in my head that is nowhere near where I actually am physically. It's all roses and palm trees and sunny beaches, in my mind as I'm going through it.
Do you sort of visualize that stuff, do you, when you're in the tough moment?
I don't know. There's a way of really blocking it out. I don't let it encroach. When I first started doing this, when I first joined the army, like, crikey, did it really hit you? The first night I remember being out on exercise as a officer cadet, we just were up doing sentry duty, and sentry duty is the dullest thing you ever have to do. You sit in the cold, in the dark, in the wet. You are not allowed to move. You're not allowed to talk, and you have to keep looking out into the dark, into the distance, to see if anyone's coming. And nobody is coming, because all the exercise is to see whether you can do it and not fall asleep, and and have disrupted sleep patterns and get up and do your soldiering thing the next day. So it's a mental exercise, and you just have to find a place where you can be comfortable in that discomfort. And that was my first exercise. It was really hard, and then I've gone and done lots more. And each time I do it, it's not pleasant. You wouldn't volunteer for it, but you do it, and it's fine. And in a way, it's a real mirror on life. There's a lot of things in life we don't like doing. They're uncomfortable, that we have to do, but you have to find a space in your head where you just get through it. Junior doctors, nights on call. Do you remember, first time you were on call overnight, you didn't sleep, and you go, how am I going to do this for the rest of my career? How am I going to do this for the rest of my life? But guess what? Every time you do it, you find a place of comfort. It's not a comfortable place, but it's a place of comfort. And Tom, you'll know this from being a professional athlete. There's a lot of stuff you have to do as a professional athlete that is uncomfortable and unpleasant, and could take you to really dark places. And in order to succeed like you have, and for Darren to succeed doing his Ironman, and Ellie to succeed in her endurance events that she's done, it's like you have to find comfort in the discomfort. I just wanted to make sure I still had that in me and had the physical capability to get up a mountain. I nearly came slightly short, but got there in the end.
You didn't. You did it. Yeah, I think it's a fascinating element of our lives, especially probably more so now than ever, where we almost have to seek out discomfort to keep ourselves psychologically, mentally in check at times, depending on how you're built, how your brain is wired. But in a life where we grow up and things are comfortable, and often we do come to expect that things will come to us easily, it's not until we're met with some challenge that we can cultivate the means to manage it and to deal with it and to come through the other side unscathed, and not only create a blueprint in our minds about some strategies and like the belief in yourself that you can get through something difficult, But it's great to simulate that kind of challenge in something that, like you were saying, Ellie, like you do know the challenge, you know there's an end point. And also you've all spoken very well about the fact that this was a level of challenge that it was going to push you, but it wasn't like way off the charts. You weren't about to do something that you knew you were totally incapable of. Like there was that uncertainty of whether your body and mind was going to stand up to it. But you're also kind of smart with it as well. And I think there's probably something in that for people who are listening and thinking that they'd like to do something similar and put themselves out of their comfort zone a little bit. It's like, go after something that's just out of reach, but not, kind of wildly unfamiliar. You don't have to go out and like necessarily break a world record or like go and do some untrodden territory necessarily. I'm just going to go around each of you now, and let's start with the tough moments. Just if there's anything that comes to mind, if there's not, don't worry. But the toughest thing, like if there was a moment that stands out, I thought that was the hard bit. That was the bit that nearly broke me. What would it be? We'll start with you, Dan.
I think the bit that nearly broke me was definitely my hand. Like I got very cold. Like my hands they went numb and then they became extremely painful. Like I don't like kind of 9 out of 10 type pain. Like kind of not like just kind of like lost it and then I kind of recovered by putting them in my pockets, which sound obvious. but my outer jacket didn't have a pocket, so I had to undo that and put them in pockets. But I think that was probably the closest where I really struggled. And then the second part was we were on this ridge line that we always were being told that we were almost there. And I think actually and like kind of this ridge line, they then pointed to the summit, and the summit was this like little triangle that was like in the distance. You didn't even know, it just looked like a peak. You didn't know there was like this metal triangle on top. Like it was still like an hour away. And that it was like at that point, I was like, I'm just gonna have to like kind of shut down like my expectations of we're nearly there, because this is not stopping. And actually like we weren't nearly there. Like we had to go again across in the light this time across this kind of narrow one person pathway or in the snow where there's a massive drop off on the left side of you. Yeah, it was kind of those times where I was at my closest where I thought, yeah, this is really tough. I also thought like I haven't like described to the potential donors that were donating how tough this was going to be, because I didn't realize it was going to be quite that tough. Like I don't think anyone in the group, not just the UK Doc group, but the 10 of us, there was a lot of people saying we didn't realize it was going to be that tough. Just in general.
Well, if people listen to this retrospectively, they can still chuck some sponsorship money towards you, I think, and you well deserved. Interesting thing just to tease out of that is like that reframe. So you said you just had to kind of shut down your expectations, and like sometimes that's it, because it's our expectations of that we want the world to be a certain way. When it turns out it's not that way, that's when you can start spiraling a little bit, can't you? Whether it's rocking up expecting a bunk bed to yourself and then having to share with some strangers, or a warm shower that you thought was going to be there and isn't, or a ridge line that's just never ending. Darren, come to you next. Toughest moment?
I think just the start of that morning, having had 1 hour of sleep, and I think everyone can kind of say similar, 1 to 3 hours of sleep, which I wasn't expecting, going back to that piece.
And stargazing.
Yeah, no, and then sticking on crampons in the freezing cold darkness and walking up that ridge line and with the wind, and you're like potentially going to get blown off and down the side of something that you can't even see. And for me, I think my moment specifically was I had like knocked a rock with my knee right in the beginning, and we're now on this ridge line, and my crampon and my foot were like not aligned, and they were like, it's meant to be straight, and I was like kind of clicking it in while we were moving up, and I was just like, man, this is way more intense than I ever thought it would be. Probably again a bit of being underprepared, and that was probably a factor. I think if we had done a bit of training with it, maybe that would have helped. You just kind of know that everyone's going through, and this was my saving grace, was everyone's going through the same thing. We're all running a bit low on sleep. We're all doing this. We're all in it together, and we're all a team, and we're going to get through it together. And that's, I think, what helped me go through the resilience and the self-belief, and getting to the end. So, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds savage. Ellie, what about you? Was there the moment that sticks out?
I think I kind of touched on it at the start, just that moment where suddenly we were getting closer. It's like that, like Dan said, we had got to this point where it's like, we're nearly there. And then we still had so far to go to get to the summit, but we were very high at that point and the wind was just relentless. I think it was the elements, to be honest, and just we were so cold at that point. None of us could get much water because all our camelbacks had frozen. Like even food was freezing. The wind just didn't stop. And when I say it didn't stop, it was just constantly blowing in your face, like constant and huge. And then even bigger gusts would come and it was just taking the breath away from you. And you just wanted to like press a pause button. Like, give me like 2 minutes just to like just compose myself. Yeah. But you couldn't.
Like life sometimes you just want to press the pause button, things to just stop, give you the space. Yeah. And
you had to then you just had to find a way to do that while still in it. So whether that was like pulling up your jacket and just like huddling in and just trying to like zone out for a minute and just try and mentally like calm yourself down, take your mind away from the pain in your fingers and your feet. You just have to try and find a way to pause internally and then keep going. And we managed it, which there was a point where I didn't think I was going to be honest. I thought I was going to have to turn back down.
Well done for sticking in it.
Yeah.
Ben, I'm going to assume your worst moment was the altitude sickness where you went a bit wobbly. So I'm going to get you to just take us on to like the best moment. Like if there was a best bit that you're going to savor in your mind forever. And these have got to be short and sweet because we're on the clock here.
Absolutely. It's simple. It's simple. It's actually getting to that metal triangle at the top and just being there. And you can see the joy on everyone's face. When you look at the photographs, everybody is happy. Yeah, you can't get away from it. You've achieved something so big, however hard it's been. And that's definitely the best moment.
Is it the same for everyone? Anyone got anything different? Dan, what was yours?
Yeah, I think like same, getting to the top, realizing you've done it. You know, I mean, I think it's a hard trek, but the elements added definitely another layer. I've looked at more recent pictures and people, you know, like there's no wind. You can tell there's no wind there, but we had particularly hard elements that day. So I think it was just getting to the top, and also at the end of it, I think what I've come away with is that doing the hikes, could be a really therapeutic space for doctors, and could be a really good way for You OK Doc to continue doing what they do for Hike in July, but throughout the year as well.
Absolutely. And Elle, you said on your post that it was breathtaking and overwhelming when you got to the top, and you drew a really nice kind of parallel, and you painted the picture of the metaphor really nicely. Just kind of by way of sort of wrapping this up, just kind of reiterate a bit of that about what the journey meant for you, but also what it means for people who are engaging with You OK Doc and the kind of messaging that we're promoting.
Like you aren't alone. And when you get to that top, like I think we all sit there and everyone here said it was being at the top, but to be honest, it wasn't even the view. It was just getting there and accomplishing it and knowing what we'd overcome and realizing as well that yes, you'd got there on your own, but you weren't alone in that journey. And you could look around at these people standing next to you and look them in the eye and they knew exactly what you'd been through without you even having to say anything. And you just felt so connected, and you just felt so inspired and empowered. Yeah, it was really special.
Amazing. Well, I loved following you guys on the journey, like seeing the pictures and the videos made me really smile, and it's been awesome hearing some of the stories. We've run out of time to hear more. I wanted to hear about Dan's toilet stops, like where did you go to the toilet on the mountain, but we'll have to pick that up another time. But if anyone's listening to this and is kind of inspired as I have been about the story Dan, Ben, Darren and Elle have all been on their journey up Mt Toubkal, then think about what that might be for your own adventure. Like, where does your adventure live? Of course, we've got a hike in July with You OK Doc. So if that's something that interests you, get in touch, give us a shout. And of course, please, if you're not going to take part, then there'll be some sponsorship links flying around to support a very worthwhile project here at UK Doc, promoting conversation. That conversation doesn't have to happen on the side of a mountain. That togetherness, that coming together for conversation and growth and sharing the journey can happen anywhere. But guys, amazing job. Like, so cool hearing the stories. I just love that basically it was just Darren's desire to wear some crampons and carry around an ice axe led to you going up the highest peak in North Africa, and you did it all together despite numerous challenges. So well done, and thanks so much for sharing your story on the YOD Pod.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Bye for now.
Well done, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.